Hi everyone. I know a lot of us are spending more time at home than we're used to. Our standard schedules have been upended, and we are all likely feeling a tad unfocused when trying to work from home and get what we need to done. My name is Prince, and I've made this short video about time scheduling with the intent of inspiring you to start a new routine when spending your time at home in self-isolation. Rule number one for building a schedule is already on the screen. It's a schedule must not be a prison. This is what I think is the most important thing about building a schedule, because if acting out your schedule feels like punishment, then you've not made a good schedule. We'll get back to that later on in the video, but next up is number two. Prioritize and execute. A tool that I like to use for prioritizing and executing is the Eisenhower Matrix, which we can see on the screen right now. The Eisenhower Matrix was inspired by his opening remarks at an address to the Century Association in 1961, where he stated, "Who can define for us with accuracy the difference between the long term and the short term, especially whenever our affairs seem to be in crisis? We are almost compelled to give our first attention to the urgent present rather than the important future." This statement is often simplified, though never by Eisenhower himself, as what is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. The Eisenhower Matrix is made up of 4 quadrants categorized by different levels of importance and urgency. Now, the tasks that you could be doing in your day probably fall in one of these 4 categories, and we'll go through them one at a time. The first quadrant is for things that are both important and urgent. These are things that must be done immediately. Things that would fall in this category include things that pose physical danger to yourself, family or work crises, or deadline-driven projects that are, coming close to their deadline. The second quadrant is for things these are things that appear as immediately demanding your attention. These are interruptions of people walking into your room or your office. It also includes most phone calls, text messages, or social media notifications. Some emails can also be classified as not important, yet urgent. Moving on to quadrant 3. This is for tasks that are important, but not urgent. These are things that must be done, but you can plan them in advance. Things like this include your daily work responsibilities, maintaining your physical and mental health, planning, like scheduling your day, building relationships, maintaining your family relationships, relationships with friends. It also includes things like necessary home maintenance and cleanliness, and preventing your important but not urgent tasks from becoming urgent, important tasks or crises. The final quadrant over here is for tasks that are not important and still not urgent. This includes unnecessary social media use, some emails. It also includes overanalyzing a situation and not getting down to task on your important work that you should be doing. A final thing in quadrant number 4 is busy work, such as tidying or reorganizing your workspace when you really should be getting down to work on your tasks. These are things that should be eliminated from your day so that you can focus on the things that are more important in life. In my opinion, it is often in completing tasks from the important but not urgent quadrant that we feel accomplished and personally rewarded. So try and focus your schedule on the things that fall into this category here. Now, what does that schedule look like? A schedule should be time-bound. So I'll give you an example of a schedule that I've made. You want to give yourself a time frame to work on each important task from your Eisenhower Matrix, and by blocking out specific times for each important but not urgent task, you ensure that nothing that is important to you, such as your family, health, or career, quietly becomes an emergency and part of the important and urgent quadrant. So I like to give myself time-bound windows for the things that are important to me. In the mornings, I like to have a cup of tea with breakfast and read, so I'm going to do that from 8:30 to 9:30. And at that time, I'm going to write a birthday card for a friend that I need to put into the mail. And setting that 1 hour window for me to read the book make sure that I don't just spend the whole day reading and neglect everything else that I want to get done that day, because these things are important to me for this particular day of the week. Making your schedule time-bound is important. It's nice to have specific times for each task, which brings us to number 4 on my list, which is set up your schedule so that you have the day that you want to have. So if you imagine that the best possible day consists of doing what is most important to you and your long-term goals, what would the best possible version of tomorrow look like? How should you order your important tasks to be most successful at accomplishing them? If you know that, for example, you'll be most successful working from home if you first have a family breakfast or get some exercise, make that your schedule. Those things are also important. So I know that I'll be more focused on the rest of my day if I work out, and I'll probably not have as much energy to work out if I wait until maybe after dinner or after lunch. So I put that in my morning because I know that that's going to set me up for success with the rest of the day. And likewise, I put a meditation session in the afternoon just so that I can refocus and make sure that I'm not getting too jumbled for the rest of my day. Another important part of setting up the schedule for the day that you want to have is starting with the things that you know when they're going to happen. I know that I'm going to be logging in for Nickel City Trivia, which is run online at 8 p.m. on Tuesdays and Fridays. Well, at 8 p.m. tomorrow, so I'm going to be doing that there. And I know that I have a phone call that I told I would call my family members at 3:30, so I'm going to make sure that that's there. I usually wake up at 7, and I can start filling in the things that I want to do in between those time-bound items. And eventually, I get to have the day that I want to have. The final tip that I have for you in scheduling your day is planning the night before. I have that down way at the bottom down here. So after trivia, I'm gonna open my agenda and plan my next day. For me, waking up without a morning routine can be difficult. If I don't know what my morning is going to look like, I find it terribly easy to get caught up in something that is not important and not urgent. Making it part of my schedule to schedule my next day is a crucial part of continuing my success from the previous day and ensuring that I'm working on what's important to me and making the most of my time at home. So that concludes what I want to say about scheduling your time. Thanks for tuning in. Please let us know in the comments if you found any of these tips useful or if you have any questions. Hope you have a great day.